World AIDS Day December 2022 Equalize World AIDS Day 2022 The inequalities which perpetuate the AIDS pandemic are not inevitable, we can tackle them. This World AIDS Day, December 1st, UNAIDS is urging each of us to address the inequalities which are holding back progress in ending AIDS. The Equalize slogan is a call to action. It is a prompt for all of us to work for the proven practical actions needed to address inequalities and help end AIDS. These include increase availability, quality, and suitability of services for HIV treatment, testing, and prevention, so that everyone is well served. Reform laws, policies, and practices to tackle the stigma and exclusion faced by people living with HIV and by key and marginalised populations, so that everyone is shown respect and is welcomed. Ensure the sharing of technology to enable equal access to the best HIV science between communities. And between the global South and North, communities will be able to make use of and adapt the Equalize message to highlight the particular inequalities they face and to press for the actions needed to address them. Data from UNAIDS on the global HIV response reveals that during the last 2 years of COVID-19 and other global crises, progress against the HIV pandemic has faltered, resources have shrunk, and millions of lives are at risk as a result. 4 decades into the HIV response, inequalities still persist for the most basic services like testing, treatment, and condoms, and even more so for new technologies. Young women in Africa remain disproportionately affected by HIV, while coverage of dedicated programs for them remains too low. In 19 high-burden countries in Africa, dedicated combination prevention programs end inequalities. End AIDS. Global AIDS Strategy 2021 to 2026 End Inequalities. End AIDS is a bold new approach to use an inequalities lens to close the gaps that are preventing progress towards ending AIDS. The Global AIDS Strategy aims to reduce these inequalities that drive the AIDS epidemic and prioritize people who are not yet accessing life-saving HIV services. For adolescent girls and young women are operating in only 40% of the high HIV incidence locations. Only a third of people in key populations, including gay men and other men who have sex with men, transgender people, people who use drugs, sex workers, and prisoners have regular prevention access. Key populations face major legal barriers including criminalization, discrimination, and stigma. We have only 8 years left before the 2030 goal of ending AIDS as a global health threat. Economic, social, cultural, and legal inequalities must be addressed as a matter of urgency. In a pandemic, inequalities exacerbate the dangers for everyone. Indeed, the end of AIDS can only be achieved if we tackle the inequalities which drive it. World leaders need to act with bold and accountable leadership. And all of us, everywhere, must do all we can to help tackle inequalities too. Activities will build up to World AIDS Day from November. The World AIDS Day report will be released in late November. On World AIDS Day on December 1st, events will take place across the world. These activities will be led not only by official bodies but also, most importantly, by communities. Through photos and videos shared by groups on social media and aggregated by UNAIDS, people will be able to have a sense of the kaleidoscope of events taking place and be inspired by the determination and hope. We can end AIDS if we end the inequalities which perpetuate it. This World AIDS Day we need everyone to get involved in sharing the message that we will all benefit when we tackle inequalities. To keep everyone safe, to protect everyone's health, we need to equalize. The strategy sets out evidence-based priority actions and bold targets to get every country and every community on track to end AIDS as a public health threat by 2030. Drawing on key lessons learned from the intersecting HIV and COVID-19 pandemics, the strategy leverages the proven tools and approaches of the HIV response, identifying where, why and for whom the HIV response is not working. The strategy outlines the strategic priorities and actions to be implemented by global, regional, country and community partners to get on track to ending AIDS. It leverages 4 decades of experience of the HIV response, supporting governments, partners, and communities to build back better, supporting systems for health to be more resilient and place people at the center. This strategy also outlines a new, bold call to action for the UNAIDS joint program to advance our leadership role in the global HIV response and to implement the strategy. And the strategy demands that the HIV response is fully resourced and implemented with urgency and optimal efficiency. There is hope. The solutions exist. 40 years of experience in the HIV response has provided the evidence of what works. Some countries have reached control of their AIDS epidemics. We know how to end AIDS, and this is the